Still the dream is on for both sets of players. They've now scored 6 penalties in a row, Ivory Coast, having missed the first 2. It's Baba. The right back Affle has scored. Can the captain of the under-20s and the left back score? Yes, he can. Slots it in. It is 7-6.
Well, these penalties have been excellent, haven't they, from the people that didn't want to take them. Baba just rolling it into the corner. Actually hits the side netting.
Doing their utmost, aren't they, Baba and Andre Ayew, to really psych up Brima Yazak, the relatively inexperienced goalkeeper for Ghana. He's 27 years of age, but as I was saying, plays his football in the Spanish second division. It's only his 10th cap tonight. He's a relatively new choice for Avram Grant as Ghana's #1 goalkeeper. Can he keep this out from Eric Bailey? If he does, Ghana are African champions for the 5th time. Bailey scores though, and once again Razak gets nowhere near it. And we go on.
Well, that's the calmest he's been throughout the game, isn't it? Really good penalty from Bailey. Steps up to it. Side foot, hit with power, enough power, and the right accuracy as well.
Well, it was 8-7 when they lost to Zambia 3 years ago. 7-all now. Absolutely unbearable, isn't it? Players down there, they can't even watch. It's Lassina Traore covering his head with his shirt. Now it's John Boy, central defender. He's for SESpor in Turkey. Up against Barry. Gets the right way again, but it was a good hit from John Boy. And we are down to the dreaded 8-7 that Ivory Coast lost by 3 years ago.
He's got to save that. I think that's a great opportunity to save the penalty. It's the right height for him. He gets his hands to it. They're not quite strong enough.
Razak hasn't got near any of the Ivory Coast penalties, but Boubacar Barry's had 2 or 3 now that he will feel he should have saved.
Chino can't watch. Who can blame him?
Well, if this is missed by Seri Dia, Ivory Coast will lose again 8-7 in the final, as they did to Zambia 3 years ago. Seri Dia has to score. It's the 6th penalty.
Confident here, does he?
It's the 6th penalty in which Ivory Coast have been in this position. No second chances.
And the referee's not helping matters. He's seen something miles away from the action. Just putting extra pressure on the penalty taker.
Seri Dia scores. It wasn't the best penalty, but again, Brima Razak has gone the wrong way, and we are 8-all. And yet again, at the Africa Cup of Nations, Ivory Coast are involved in what we can now describe as a marathon shootout.
Takes a strange run up at it. But it's enough to send Razak the wrong way. Starts to run one way. Whoops, there we go. I think at one point the goalkeeper thought he was going to take it with his left foot.
Well, the record is 24 penalties between Ivory Coast and Cameroon in the quarter-final of 2006. We've now had 20, and we are down to the goalkeepers. Razak against Boubacar Barry. Saved by Boubacar Barry! And the penalty shootout has turned into a nightmare for Brima Razak, who has been unable to get his hands on any of the Ivorian penalties and now has missed his own spot kick. And Ivory Coast are 1 penalty away from ending the 23-year wait.
Well, again, it's the right height for him. That's the side where he's looked more comfortable at making a save. Not a good penalty. Goalkeepers aren't used to taking them. Now, Boubacar Barry, what's he doing again? He's starting to play act. He's rolling on the floor. I'm not quite sure why he wants to do that now.
It's Boubacar Barry who has to take the next penalty. The 10 outfield players have taken one.
Oh, he's saying his wrist is sore now. Is he trying to avoid taking the penalty here?
That's what I was thinking. Well, Hervé Renard is one penalty away from lifting his second Africa Cup of Nations in 3 editions, and to become the first coach to win it with 2 different countries. He is rapidly becoming an Africa Cup of Nations legend. Hervé Renard. Is the long wait over for Ivory Coast? And the wait is becoming even longer for Ghana if this goes in.
He's had a bad wrist in this penalty shootout. He's had cramp.
Boubacar Barry has saved one. Now can he score the winner? Only in because of the injury to their first choice goalkeeper. Boubacar Barry to win the Cup of Nations for Ivory Coast! He's done it! Côte d'Ivoire have beaten Ghana in a penalty shootout as they did 23 years ago to become champions of Africa. And wouldn't you just know it, in the first Africa Cup of Nations without Didier Drogba, Ivory Coast have only gone and won it. 2 penalties down in the shootout, but they have come from behind, and Boubacar Barry only in the starting 11 because of an injury to first choice Sylvain Gabou, and the 35-year-old has won it for them, first saving the penalty from Razak and then converting his own. Ivory Coast beat Ghana 9-8 on penalties, and what a tough one to take for Ghana, Stuart.
Well, when they'd missed their first 2, the Ivory Coast, Hervé Renard must have thought that was over. The Ivory Coast players thought it was over, but they got themselves back into it. And in the end, it was a good save from Boubacar Barry, and his penalty was a good one as well. Bit of play acting went on from him. Not sure that was quite right, but in the end, Ivory Coast, despite not playing as well as they can do tonight, I think they were probably the best team in the tournament after those first couple of games. No team really was outstanding throughout the 5, 6, 7 games, except Ivory Coast in those last 4 or 5. And here's the penalty again that's won it. It's enough power. Again, it's a decent height. And Razak, who got nowhere near most of the penalties, didn't get anywhere near that. Didn't dive early enough. And that's the penalty that wins it for the Ivory Coast. And that's what it means to all these players. And that's why the game was so tense and tight. Because this is what it's all about.
Delight for Gervinho and the Touré brothers. Salomon Kalou, the survivors from the so-called golden generation that is now being mixed with a new breed of talent. But finally, Ivory Coast have become champions of Africa.